Hey everyone, Coops here from the Whole Box and Dice. Essence Scatter got reprinted, Blue God, a set of artifacts, awesome stuff got revealed. Day 2 of Amonkhet spoiler season. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, Amonkhet you up to speed. No points for guessing what I want to show first. Essence Scatter is back. Let's jump straight into it. It's the blue instant for 2, counter target creature spell, just at the common rarity as well. Yes. Know that you've put in an Embalm at the same time you've reprinted this, because that's obviously annoying, because they can still get value out of their graveyard. Horribly Awry is obviously the spell that this was supposed to be replacing, I guess, because Zendi was originally going to be rotating out. That exiles, which is awesome, but it's also capped at 4 CMC. This hits anything. I'm really excited to see this. It'll be interesting to see how much payoff the Embalm decks get by having this stuff sent to the graveyard and losing the initial interaction of having that creature on the board. But anytime Control gets a piece like this, I'm super pumped for. I'm glad they spoiled this on the same day the blue/Control God got spoiled. Oh, I just want to touch on this first because I am so pumped, because as much as I love playing the self-crewing vehicle deck with Fling, and that got a dumb card added to it today as well, I am a Control player at heart. Blue-black, mono-blue, Grixis, whatever colors you want to sling it. Oh, this is so awesome. I know all my friends just like, God damn it, Coops, why do they print Control spells for you? But thank you so much, Wizards. I don't care that we have to deal with Embalm as well. Essence Scatter, big old tick. Let's hit up the Blue God next. This guy is absolutely nuts. It is Kefnet the Careful, legendary creature god for 3, 2 generic and a blue. He's a flyer with indestructible. Kefnet the Careful can't attack or block unless you have 7 or more cards in hand. Pay 4, 3 generic and a blue, draw a card, then you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. Old Keffy, eh? Old Kefnet the Careful. Well, he is being absolutely careful with a pretty much a nope and go 7 card hand. Really like this. Probably don't want to play it on turn 3, even though he only does cost 3, just because you want to get that control of the game down pat. I really like that this is just like a big 5/5 body. This will complement Sphinx of the Final Word really well, I think, as well. That's a nice little 2 combo there for pretty much 2 turn clock in the air for 20 damage, which is awesome. Everyone hating on this card. Why are you hating on this card? Control wants to play with a big old hand. Is this an aggro card? No. Is it a mid-range card? Probably not. You're not going to get 7, but you can pick up an island, pick up a land when you play this. So if you are playing like an energy theme, you're going to play like a Grixis deck with Harness Lightning and pick up Aether Hub to get another energy off, which is awesome. And the fact you've got cards like Glimmer, you've got things like Take Inventory, you've got things like Oath of Jace and the Trial of Knowledge that we just saw. You've got Anticipate. There are ways to get cards into your hand, and you can spend the mana to cast a spell, then pick a land up, then put it back down if you haven't played a land as well. There is so many great possibilities with the card. The God is good. It is a big old tick. Is it better than Red God? Probably. I think it might even be better than the Red God, just because Control is looking like it's getting those few pieces that it really needed to remain competitive. It is not that hard to have 7 cards in your hand, and it's not even that hard on turn 3 when you play this guy to be really close to having those 7 cards in hand. And when you pay that 4 mana to bring a land back and then draw a card, it is very easily on turn 4 to have a 5/5 indestructible flyer up. What's not to like? Unless you hate Control, and then yes, hate on this card because it looks nuts. Third card that I want to spotlight before we kind of start grouping them together. This one is for the red-white self-crewing vehicles deck. This one is Onward to Victory. I can't believe people aren't hyped for this. Who cares? You don't want to play it all in one go. The Onward top part is target creature gets plus X plus 0 until end of turn where X is its power. The side part, the sorcery side, is Aftermath. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. You can only cast a spell from your graveyard, and then if you do, exile it. I will retouch on pretty much all the decks that I put up before Amonkhet when Amonkhet comes out, if there's anything notable to add to this. But let me just walk you through this really quickly, because if you guys have seen the red-white self-crewing vehicles, you should know pretty much the shell of this. Turn 1, Boat. Running a playset, not too hard. Turn 2, Shram. Excellent card draw, great 2-drop, enables pretty much what we want to do on turn 3. Also running a playset, great card. Siege Modification. Makes the boat a vehicle you can now attack with a 10/11, trigger Shram, get the card draw. On turn 4, you got 1 of 2 possibilities, right? You have to have 3 mana to get Siege Modification off. So let's say you've only got 3 mana. Now, you can play something like Built to Smash, for example, and then fling it, or play the first half of this spell. Or if you do go to 4 mana, you can play Built to Smash, you can play this, and if you've got a Spire of Industry, we even hold removal in the board, and you can tap it and get a Dispel off if your opponent tries to Fatal Push it. You can go through for like 26 trample first strike damage. This is a turn 4 win in this deck. I know there's a lot of stuff they printed today about tapping creatures down and doing all this horrible, horrible things. And maybe Blue-White Flash is back as well. I think there's a good chance that that's going to be a feature again. But this is a nut turn 4 play that you can get off. Really, really digging this card. I don't think it's limited only. I think those super fast vehicle decks that just want to abuse early damage will love this card. They're the 3 cards that I really wanted to spotlight before we jumped into the rest. Let me know if you think these are any good or not in the comments. Let's get into the rest of it. What we're looking at first, this one is the Temet, I believe his name is, Temet, Vizier or Visor of Nakatuman. I don't know, Naktuman. I don't know. I reckon it's like Naktamun, maybe. That's what I love about good old Wizards cards. There's never a pronunciation. So until you hear a commentator being like, oh, that's totally wrong, you're like, oh, okay, need to change up the pronunciation of that. Like Lifecrafter's Bestiary, everyone's like Lifecrafter's Bestiary. There's no A at the start of that in that card, so what's up with that? This guy is the blue-white legendary creature human cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature token you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn and can't be blocked. Has Embalm of 5/3 generic blue and white. This is kind of crazy, especially when you embalm him and you retain all the abilities, and you can just go through with himself as a 3/3 unblockable token creature. I'm sure this will see some play in Commander. I mentioned Blue-White Flash, Blue-White Spirits, Blue-White Humans, whatever that build is going to look like is coming back. I think this is going to be a staple of this card. Big old tick, good work. Really excited to see this one in play. Up next, we'll be looking at the Channeler Initiate for 2, a generic and a green. It's the Human Druid, the 3/4. And this card's super funky. When it enters the battlefield, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. So you assume, unless you want to kill your 1-drop, that you're going to make this effectively a 0/1. Then you can tap it, remove a -1/-1 counter from Channeler Initiate, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This is really cool, guys. This is a really interesting way to be able to, firstly, bring ramp online without playing energy. So obviously Servant is definitely a card that people want to play. And you've got things like Druid of the Cow at 2 as well, but this is any color mana, so you don't have to be limited to just green. You also can get away from energy if that's not the route that you want to take. With this, I like this card. You can obviously use it to trigger Revolt by taking out one of your smaller creatures if you need that interaction as well. I really, really like this card. I think it's a really clever 2-drop and can't wait to see how it fits into the format. Next creature we've got is the Exemplar of Strength. He's the creature human warrior for 2, generic and a green again. When Exemplar of Strength enters the battlefield, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control, same as before. When Exemplar of Strength attacks, remove a -1/-1 counter from it. If you do, gain 1 life. This one is really, really interesting because effectively you've got a 1/1, right, on turn 2. And then you attack on turn 3 and it only becomes a 2/2. So that's not super awesome. I don't really like that, but I do like that you get a bit of life when he attacks. It'll be interesting to see how this works. I feel like the format is definitely not slowing down, so I'm not sure how the power to turn ratio is going to work with this guy, but excited to see. I do like the innovation. I like these cool mechanics. Definitely asking us to consider some very different deck build-arounds, which is what we wanted. We wanted diversity. Next creature that we're going to be looking at today, this one is the Tarcrop Elite. It is the Bird Warrior for 4, 3 generic and a white. It's a flyer for 2/2. You may exert Tarcrop Elite as it attacks. When you do, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Nice. I like all these exert cards. It just works in this whole red-white vigilant theme deck. Pretty much you just get to not cop the penalty on the exert. It's a flyer. It's pretty standard stats, 4 for 2. Would have been nice if it was like a 2/3 or a 3/2. Kind of similar to like Hinterland Drake, but that's okay. I'm sure this will see play in Limited and it will be quite effective. Big fan of the exert mechanic. Keep them coming. Next creature we're going to be looking at is Scribe of the Mindful. It's the human cleric for 3. Plenty of humans if Mimic can get off the board with this archetype. Pay 1 and tap it. sack the Scribe of the Mindful, and return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. This one, I'm not so sure about. Like, if there's a need for a blue or a blue-themed deck to play Revolt, then I quite like this. I've seen a lot of talk around, play something like a Tune with Ether, then you play this, and the next turn you sack it. You can bring back a Tune, then you can play something like a Renegade Rallier to bring it back, or you can play Hidden Herbalist to add mana to your pool. So there's definitely some interactions that way, and that gets you a whole bunch of energy and a whole bunch of creatures back, and that interaction. I do like that. Does that set you up well for like a green-blue pummeler deck? I don't know. There's definitely a couple of different ways that you can take this card. Once again, really enjoying some of these creatures. I think they're going to be awesome, funky build-arounds. That's the end of the creatures there. Jumping into the enchantment slot. This one is just for one, Consuming Fervor. It's the Aura enchant creature. It gets +3/+3, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on this creature. We saw the 1-drop Jackal printed yesterday, so that was really cool. I like that this is at the beginning of your upkeep, so you get that full 3 power, 3 toughness through your opponent's turn as well. You've got things like Village Messenger on turn 2. That's going to come down as a 4/4. That's kind of nuts. You get that transformation, then it effectively becomes a 4/4 with Menace after that first counter comes off. So I like that as well. It's obviously going to, effectively null and void itself eventually, but you might have already got enough power to force some, unfavorable trade-offs with your opponent and get plenty of damage on the board. So funky Aura, do like this one. Interesting to see how it works and just where it slots in. I think there's definitely a spot for it in a constructed deck, especially if mono red comes back. Next enchantment that we're going to be looking at is the Drake Haven. It's the enchantment for 3, 2 generic and a blue. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. This one is a lot harder to assess. If it was whenever you do it, you don't have to pay. That could be interesting. Or if it was like tap this or pay 1 mana, then at least you can get that benefit straight away from it. But I don't know if they want to just make like token generating artifacts. 2/2 flyers are always tough to deal with. We just saw the blue-white legendary, effectively like token Beastmaster guy who can make it 3/3 and go through for unblockable, which is kind of cool. So if your opponent has like Heart of Kirin up, they can't interact with it in the air. This one will be interesting. It'll be very interesting. Like Nest of Scarabs, will they be able to build a deck around this? I'm not sure. I'm certain, though, in Limited, there will be value in this card as you build your deck around the cycling mechanic. And just all those extra cards that if you're not getting value off them straight away, you can still get value with the cycle at any point in the game. Last enchantment that we're going to be looking at today. This one is Cast Out. I thought it said Cash Out. Initially, when I read it, I was like, that's a weird name. It's the Flash enchantment for 4. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Cast Out leaves the battlefield. This is nuts for so many reasons. Firstly, 4 converted mana cost is awesome. Puts it out of the 3 converted mana cost destruction spells. Hits Planeswalkers. You don't have to get double white for Stasis Snare now. Plus, it goes other than just creatures. You can grab walkers with this. There are lots of things that this can target. It's super splashable with just the 1 white mana. Big fan of this card. I think this will definitely see some play and is a great replacement. And I think more versatile than Stasis Snare, even though it does cost 1 more. Next up, we're jumping into the sorceries, and this one is Lay Bare the Heart. This is a translation, so just be a little bit mindful of this one. It's the sorcery for 2, generic and a black. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You may choose a non-legendary, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Obviously, the instant comparison is to Transgress the Mind with this. Transgress gets the exile, so that's definitely useful with Embalm. But this also doesn't have any stipulation around it. So outside of legendary land, you can grab anything. Converted mana cost irrelevant. You can use this to stop them on the curve, effectively, which is really nice. Anything that lets you look at your opponent's hand. I'm a big fan of this card. I think there might be even a case for a blue-black hand control deck, with some cards like Herald of Anguish and Harsh Scrutiny and Transgress and this. Maybe cards like Baral to bring Mind Rot and those kind of like Whispers of Emrakul cost cards down. That's something I've been working on for a while. So a card like this definitely, I think, could fit into that deck. And guys, if that's a deck that you want to see, then let me know, because that's something that I've been working on, but I'm just not sure if the format's a little too fast for it at the moment. But cards like this certainly do help. Next card that we're going to be looking at today, and we're into the Incense, we're looking at Splendid Agony. Distribute 2 -1/-1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures for 3, 2 generic and a black. Splendid Agony, this one's a really tricky one. We had whatever the -2/-2 scry 1 for 3 in 8th Revolt. I can't remember what it is at the moment. It's got like the picture of like the guy doing the sneaky stuff. This is kind of like this, but it doesn't have the scry. So yes, you can take out 2/1 toughness creatures, which is good. Really would have liked to see scry on this. I'm sure this will be strong in limited. Not sure if it's going to get play in constructed, unless of course that -1/-1 counter deck creating all those insect tokens is a viable strategy for us going forward. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll definitely see with that one. Next instant we're looking at today. This one is Decision Paralysis for 4, 3 generic and a blue. This one is tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Pretty standard card that we're seeing. You know, a lot of these pay mana, a certain amount of mana to tap 1 or 2 creatures that don't untap. We had things like Displace. Actually, no, Displace the bounce. I think Displace is the bounce one. We've got the blue one for 1 in 8th Revolt, which I can never remember the name. People play it against me in limited, and I'm always like, that's really annoying. Stop tapping my creature down at instant speed. This is kind of a bit of generic filler. I don't think this is going to see heaps of play, but you know, these are the kind of cards that always round out any new set. Next up, and we're jumping back into the instant split sorcery top side cards. This one is Prepared to Fight, and actually got spoiled, not in English, so this one is another translation, and it's untapped target creature. It gains +2/+2 and has lifelink until end of turn, and it has the fight trigger at sorcery speed. Target creature you control fights target creature and opponent controls for a generic and a white for the instance, and 3 generic and a green for the sorcery. This one I'm not so sure about, and I don't know why it's a rare either, but maybe you're missing something. Maybe there will be some interaction with if you play this card, you know, if you played in 1 turn, or if you play the second half, or when you play a spell from your graveyard. I'm not sure if there's going to be some payoff for that, and that makes these cards a lot better, which probably justifies the rarity. But, you know, the red-white one was an uncommon. I was pretty happy with that slot. It seems like they're kind of mashing a lot of spells together. They're like, this is kind of a decent spell, and this is kind of a decent spell, so together. But I like this card. I think, like, flavor-wise, they fit well, and the art on them is really, really pretty, even if they are a little bit smaller. So that I certainly dig. But it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, don't open too many of these out of our booster boxes, unless, of course, they're bangers. Last, set of cards that I'm going to show today is the artifact cycle they brought out, which matches up to all the gods. I'll pop these up on screen for you now. So we've got 1 for each color. They're all monuments, and they're all for 3 mana. They're all obviously colorless, and whenever whatever god they represent, as the gods are all mono-colored, that color of creature spells costs 1 less to cast. The white one, for example, creates a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. And Noya doesn't create a human, by the way, for that one. A human warrior. Blue creature spells cost 1 less to cast, and you can tap a target creature an opponent controls, and it doesn't untap during its opponent's next untap step for blue. That I really like that's why I was saying blue-white flash coming back. You've also got things like the Aether Shield Thief as well, the flash to get an energy. I do like that. He becomes just 1 blue to flash a 0/4 blocker on. You get an energy and you get to tap something else down. That's pretty awesome. Bontu's Monument is the black one, and whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Maybe something like this in Commander. The green one is target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample. Nothing too awesome, but I guess anytime you can buff creature and give it trample in green is always going to be good. And the red one is whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. I like the cycle enabling and the madness enabling on this. The fact that you get a free Madness Enabler plus recycling, that's really, really cool. I'm not sure if these are going to see any play, but once again, they do have some benefit. You know, the blue one, I almost think this can see some play, but I don't think, just like the god, I don't think you want to take up your turn 3 by playing something like this, unless, like, your opponent's really running out of, like, you know, only has 1 land, for example, and has kept that hand, and they just don't seem to be getting any land. I don't know. The blue one, I think, maybe is the best chance, just because there is some cheap stuff that you can cast later in the game. It also brings things like Torrential Gearhulk and the Sphinx online a little bit earlier, which is always nice. And then you do have that kind of double ability on things like Gearhulk, where you can flash it on, take something out as a block, and also take... we wouldn't be able to tap it down because it'd already be attacking, but before combat, deter an attack. So there's a couple of interactions. I think the blue one is the best chance of seeing play. But that's all the spoilers for today, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're enjoying Amonkhet. I know I certainly am. Set looks absolutely nuts. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Can't wait for day 3. I've been Coops. This is the Whole Box and Dice. Peace.